Hi, and welcome to another international edition of We Review Races. This is our short video for things that aren't in the athlete guide that you guys may want to know. So first, I'll take on check-in and the transitions. Also, this is for Challenge St. Polten. We stayed in Vienna and only stayed the one night in St. Polten. So travel from Vienna to St. Polten, extremely easy by train, and a lot easier when your phone works. So there's that. Check in, it's great. Make sure that you're doing everything on time. The helmet needs to be on and buckled to check in your bike. But you're checking your bike and your bags the night before. This is a gear bag race, so you will have of course, a morning clothes bag, bike bag, and a run bag. So you'll want all of those, no problems. Make sure your race belt, they actually take the rules seriously in Austria. Wear your race belt with your number on your bike. So put that in your bike bag, not your run bag. You want to talk about the swim?
Sure. You want for transition or for check-in, you want to have a fair amount of time. You don't want to come in late in the day on the day before Saturday. The race was on Sunday. You don't want to come in late in the day. Do have plenty of time to get all that stuff together. For the swim, it's a two-lake swim. So as opposed to a two-loop swim, it's a two-lake swim. So you start off in one lake, hop in, do a loop, hop out, and you run a pretty good ways. Several hundred yards. It's not like you can't see one from the other. You go over a bridge. It does get later in the swim. It does get a little bit slippery, so be aware of that. When you hop in the second lake, be aware of the weeds. I was late swimming and there were still lots of weeds that you're swimming through. You get them, just be aware of them. They don't really impede you other than get caught in your fingers or get on your shoulders. And then when you get out of that second lake, there's some fist-sized rocks that you have to kind of navigate. You're stepping over them. I kind of stumbled doing that, but be aware of that as you hop out. The water's cold. Wear a wetsuit. We wore sleeveless wetsuits, and I don't regret that, but I never saw, other than us, another person with sleeveless wetsuits. Sydney said she did see a couple of people, but of the 1,600 people that were there, if there were 4 people in sleeveless wetsuits, you got to know that everybody else was in a sleeved wetsuit. But the water is cold, so be aware that people were wearing hoods. Didn't see anybody with booties. I don't even know if you're allowed to wear booties.
I saw one person with booties.
Okay. So the entry into the water, you can dive in. You can jump in feet first, or they actually have some stairs that you can walk down. I did notice several people dive in and their goggles came off. One guy in particular, his goggles came off and he lost a contact lens, so he had to get back out, and it took him a good bit to get started. One guy, I think, broke his goggles. So just if you're going to dive in, practice that before you come. Anything else you'd add to the swim?
No, man, that's great.
Okay.
So the bike. The bike is a single loop 90K bike. There are 3 difficult climbs. All of that's in the race packet, and you can see it. It will not tell you how difficult those climbs are because it is brutal. At the top, so there were 2 aid stations that I remember.
Only 2.
Yes.
Note that.
So be prepared. After you get your race packet, your helmet has to be buckled to go get your bike and then get all the way through. I saw the official handing out blue cards for that. He was nice. He stopped me for my race belt, and then turned me around and made me go get it. So that made a long transition. But make sure your race belt's on and helmet's clasped. The bike it starts out rolling hills down, and then there's a little up. The scenery is unbelievable. Enjoy it. They closed down the interstate, so the very first rolling hills down were on the Austrian interstate, and our whole thing was closed down. Zero traffic, plenty of police. Challenge does an amazing job with that in the States, and that was no different here. It might have actually been more regulated here. It was fantastic. The aid stations were exactly what you would expect. They had nice, large bottles of water. Obviously, their nutrition I didn't choose to take in because we didn't practice with it. So I don't remember what it was called, but they had, and then the goo, and then water, and then their nutrition again, and then water on the way out. Plenty of volunteers, plenty of people cleaning up bottles. The roads are spectacular, unbelievably great. Even the patches were nice and smooth where we hit those. Really, really great job. After that first hill, the first climb, and then you have a fairly rapid descent, and it's got a few, it's not switchbacks, but pretty close to hard 90s. They warn you that these, you may want to slow down. The warning that I actually paid attention to was the ambulance at every single one of the corners, and they had placed airbags, like literally bags filled with air, over the guardrail. So if you hit it, at least you had, some soft. But climbing, there are steep drops to the right. I mean, there were, grassy hills. But yeah, you want to pay attention. These bikers are very good. The athletes here were all very professional. Neither of us speaks enough German to make a difference, and so they would call out right. I don't know if it meant something else in German, but I took it as get over to the right.
They were telling you to move.
Yeah. So I don't know. It sounded like right. I got out of the way. But yeah, fantastic bike course. So you go up. The middle hill is just as nasty as it looks on the computer. It is absolutely brutal. I try not to come out of my seat, and I was out of my seat a lot. But at the top of that second hill is the second aid station. Those guys were great. You went through there. There's another little tiny climb, and then you started your descents. And then of course, then there's another little climb, but after you've done the second one, there's nothing that can break you. So yeah, that third climb was not that bad for me, and then the descents are just a blast. I have some 10-minute 5-mile segments, unbelievably fast. So yeah, it's a fantastic bike.
We had vastly different bike experiences, and we'll talk about that in the next video. But one more thing that you want to think about on the bike is it was windy. So be aware of that, especially if you have deep dish wheels or a disc, that it was windy.
There were a lot of racers that had full discs on the back. With the way the course, the climbs are and the mountains, I was not expecting that, but it was. I mean, I'd say maybe 5-10% of the field had either deep dish wheels or a full disc on the back.
All right, I'll go over the run. You go into transition. You drop off your bike stuff, get your bike bag, your run bag, change into your run clothes, and then head out on the run. It's a 2-loop run course. Aid stations are actually compared to the bike, since there were only 2, there are a bunch of aid stations on the run. Just a couple of small uphill runs. You cross the river a few times, and then you come back and you do it all again. The run for me was a little confusing, mainly because I didn't speak English, and the volunteer that was telling me where to run was speaking in German. But when you come out of transition and into the run, just look for the signage. There's 3 lanes that you can get into, and you want to be in the middle one. What it is you come in from your second, when you're coming in after your first loop, you loop back into that same tunnel. After you come in after your second loop, you pass that second lane and you turn into the other one, which is the finish line. So basically, when you run out, you're passing the finish line. You just want to be in that middle lane to leave. Not a difficult run, relatively flat, really scenic as far as you're running by a river and you kind of run through town a little bit over a couple of bridges. So in plenty of aid stations, they had plenty of stuff. I was towards the end of the race and they still had plenty of stuff. So I would say it was what you would expect on a run and pretty flat.
So if we haven't been clear up to this point, neither of us speak German. Plenty of English speaking. That language was not an option. Do not let that deter you from this race. They speak English enough that he and Billy and I were joking around as we're filling up the water bottles, and that's a cute story. But the guy 4 bikes down is laughing at us because he fully understood what was going on. So lots of English, lots of very helpful. They were super excited to have us. Fantastic city. Highly recommend this race. This is a bucket list race. Absolutely do it. The scenery is unbelievable. The bike, I really hate hills. And I didn't like these hills either. But the scenery was absolutely worth it. It's gorgeous.